Hands out the window, now! Don't make this hard!
Officer, listen, my hands are out.
You're not in charge here! Step out, step out!
Now slowly, I'm Army.
I don't care who you are! Turn around, face away!
Stop pulling, you're hurting me, sir. I'm not resisting.
Stop resisting! Stop resisting!
I'm not! My wrist!
Quit acting!
Wrist.
You did this to yourself!
The first sound wasn't a shout. It was bone against pavement, a sharp crack under the cold glow of a streetlight, so quiet it almost didn't feel real until the Black Army officer screamed through clenched teeth, trying not to bit in front of men who wore power like armor. His uniform was wrinkled from the struggle, name tag flashing in the bodycam glare. The officer on top of him didn't hesitate. He twisted harder like the wrist wasn't attached to a human being, but to a problem he needed to solve. And in that moment, something snapped that would never fully heal. If you've ever wondered how fast a routine stop can turn into a life-changing injustice, stay with this story. Watch closely, because what happens next isn't just about one officer. It's about a system, and the moment it finally got caught on camera, the night had that kind of silence that felt engineered too clean, too still. The air was cold enough to bite through fabric, the kind of cold that makes streetlights look brighter than they are, and makes every shadow feel longer. Outside the perimeter of Fort McNair-style training grounds, not inside the base, but in that gray zone where military life bleeds into civilian streets, there was a stretch of road locals used like a corridor, strip malls on one side, a gas station with one flickering sign on the other, and highway ramps that swallowed cars like tunnels. Captain Marcus Reed drove with the calm posture of a man trained to stay composed, even when his body begged for rest. He'd just come off another long shift at the Joint Training Program, hours of briefs, scenario drills, and leadership instruction under fluorescent lights that made time feel artificial. His uniform was folded in the back seat. He wore a plain dark hoodie now, his military haircut still sharp enough to look like discipline. But everything else about him was tired, his hands relaxed on the wheel, his eyes scanning the road like it was muscle memory. The dashboard clock glowed 11:43 p.m. He wasn't speeding. He wasn't swerving. He wasn't doing anything that could justify attention. But attention, especially on certain streets, has never needed justification. Sometimes it just needs a reason to exist. In the rearview mirror, a pair of headlights suddenly separated from the traffic flow behind him. Not random. Intentional. They hovered at a distance like they were measuring him. Reed noticed it the way soldiers notice movement in a tree line, not with panic, but with quiet calculation. He kept driving. He wasn't running for anything. Then the lights came, red, blue, flashing in a rhythm that made the whole inside of his car pulse like a heartbeat. The reflections jumped across his windshield, across his cheek, across his hands. Reed exhaled through his nose, the kind of breath that tries to keep irritation from becoming anger. "All right," he said softly to himself, "let's do this." His blinker clicked. He eased toward the shoulder, slowing down smoothly, no sudden moves, no sharp braking. He pulled into the thin strip of safety between asphalt and darkness under the reach of a streetlight that hummed faintly like electricity had its own nerves. The patrol car rolled in behind him and stopped with the calculated distance officer, are trained to keep just far enough to react, just close enough to intimidate. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the driver's door opened. Marcus watched in the mirror as a young officer stepped out, posture stiff, shoulders wide, walking with the kind of confidence that doesn't come from experience but from the belief that authority is the same as strength. The officer was new, you could tell, not because of his uniform, those all looked the same, but because of his movement, too fast, too sharp, like he was trying to prove something to the night. The rookie approached the car with his hand hovering near his holster, a training habit, but the hand stayed there a little too long. Reed rolled his window down halfway, keeping both hands on the wheel. "Good evening, officer," Reed said, calm, respectful, neutral. The officer leaned slightly, flashlight already in his hand, cutting the beam across the cabin like a searchlight. The light hit Reed's face and lingered, then moved slowly to his hands, his lap, the passenger seat, the back seat. The flashlight paused on the folded uniform in the back. The officer's mouth tightened. "License and registration," he said. Reed nodded. "Yes, sir." "They're in my wallet and glove box." I'm going to reach for them slowly. The officer's eyes narrowed like Reed had asked permission to breathe. "Just get them." Reed moved carefully, 2 fingers lifting his wallet. Then his registration. No sudden motion, no attitude. He handed both through the gap in the window. The officer glanced at the license. then back at Marcus, like he was trying to decide what story he wanted this stop to become. You live around here, yes. You coming from the base. Reed hesitated for half a second, not because it was wrong, but because he understood what that answer could do in the wrong hands. I was at a training facility earlier, he said. The rookie smirked, small, quick, almost imperceptible, but it was there. Training facility, he repeated, like it was a joke. You saying you're military? I'm an army officer, Reed answered. That should have ended the tension. Most officers would have softened right there. Professional respect, shared institutional culture. Even if not admiration, at least recognition. But the rookie's face didn't soften. It hardened. He stepped back from the window like the information didn't calm him. Like it challenged him. Step out of the vehicle, he said. Reed blinked once, slowly. Confused, not frightened. Confused. Officer, may I ask why? The rookie's voice sharpened. Step out of the vehicle. Reed's stomach tightened, not from fear but from the memory of watching other people in uniform get treated like suspects for existing in the wrong body. He could feel that old national tension, the one nobody admits exists until it happens right in front of them, creeping into the air like smoke. He opened the door and stepped out. The cold hit him instantly. The wind made the hoodie cling slightly to his chest. His boots crunched over gravel as he stood near the rear of the car, hands visible. The rookie officer stayed close, too close. That was another sign. Most officers give distance when they have control. Closeness is insecurity. Closeness is dominance acting like strategy. What's going on? Reed asked again, voice steady. I've complied. The rookie didn't answer the question. He asked a different one. Any weapons in the vehicle? Reed paused. No, officer. The officer's flashlight beam bounced again. He wasn't scanning. He was searching for something that justified his emotions. You been drinking tonight? No, you sure? Yes. The rookie officer's radio crackled softly. Dispatch in the distance. The kind of mechanical sound that reminds you this entire moment is being logged in time. Reed's eyes dropped briefly to the patrol car behind him. He could see the dashcam light blinking, silent but recording, a constant witness. All right, the rookie said. Turn around. Reed's eyebrows lifted slightly. Turn around. Now. Marcus did it. Not because he agreed, but because he understood something most civilians don't. In a roadside stop, being right doesn't protect you from being harmed. He turned around slowly. The rookie moved in behind him and grabbed his wrists. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't professional. It was rough. Like Reed's body was property now. Officer, Reed said quietly, you're hurting me. The rookie yanked harder. Reed's shoulder stiffened instinctively. What's your badge number? Reed asked, voice controlled but firm. And what is the reason for this detention? That sentence, calm, logical, lawful, should have been routine. Instead, it sounded to the rookie like disrespect. His tone rose. You don't get to question me. I do get to ask the reason, Reed replied. I'm not resisting. I'm asking a lawful question. That was the moment the stop shifted, not from traffic enforcement to ego enforcement. The rookie leaned in close, voice low but sharp. You're acting real confident for somebody who's about to go to jail. Reed froze for half a beat. Jail? He repeated. For what? The rookie didn't answer. Instead, he reached for his cuffs. Metal clicked in the air like a warning shot. Reed's mind moved faster than his body. He wasn't thinking about himself anymore. He was thinking about what this looked like, what this could become, what it could cost. He was thinking about the fact that his military ID was still in his pocket. That he had a chain of command, that he had a career built on discipline and honor, and none of that mattered here. Out here, on the edge of the highway, under a trembling streetlight, the only currency was control. Reed's wrists were pulled back tighter. Officer, Reed said again, a little louder now, I'm not resisting. I'm not a threat. Why are you doing this? The rookie's eyes didn't show hatred. They showed something worse, certainty. I said stop moving, the officer snapped, even though Reed wasn't moving at all. The lie wasn't for Reed. It was for the camera, and cameras, Reed knew, don't always capture the truth. They capture what someone narrates into existence. The rookie's radio crackled again. He pressed the button on his shoulder mic. Dispatch, he said, voice suddenly professional, suddenly clean. I have an uncooperative subject, requesting backup. Reed's head turned slightly, disbelief cutting through his control. Uncooperative, he said. I've done everything you've asked. The rookie didn't look at him, didn't respond. But the air changed. In the distance, faint at first, sirens began to rise, closing in like. The night itself was leaning forward to watch what came next. Reed stood cuffed on the roadside, breath visible in the cold, heart steady but heavy. He wasn't pleading. He wasn't panicking. He was just standing there, realizing that this wasn't a traffic stop anymore. This was something else, and it was only beginning. The first siren wasn't loud. It was distant, almost polite, like the night was warning him before it swallowed him. Captain Marcus Reed stood on the shoulder with his hands pinned behind his back, cuffs cutting cold steel into his skin. The streetlight above him flickered once, briefly dimming the scene like a camera shutter blinking. In the mirror of his own car window, he could see his breath, fogging the glass. He could see the rookie officer's outline, shifting with restless impatience. The man kept looking toward the roadway, waiting for company like a child, waiting for backup in an argument. Reed didn't move, not because he was afraid, but because he understood the rules of this kind of moment. On base, authority had structure, rank had meaning, conflict had protocols. In the army, even chaos had an order to it. Out here, there was only emotion pretending to be law. The rookie officer shoved him forward a few inches, feet back, he snapped. Reed adjusted. Slow, careful. The cuffs clinked. That sound, small, metallic, echoed louder than it should have, like humiliation had a soundtrack. Officer, Reed said evenly, I'm asking again. What is the reason I'm being detained? The rookie stepped closer, voice low now, not calm, threatening, like he wanted Reed to feel the closeness. You're being detained because I said so. Reed stared at the road ahead, jaw tightening. That wasn't an answer. That wasn't procedure. That wasn't lawful basis. That was ego. You're required to articulate probable cause, Reed replied, still controlled. He wasn't trying to win. He was trying to survive the moment with dignity intact. The rookie's eyes flared like Reed had insulted him. You want to play lawyer with me? He barked. You want to play tough? Reed felt his heartbeat lift slightly. Not panic. Alertness. Training. The body recognizing a threat before the mind admits it. I'm not playing anything, Reed said. I'm an officer in the United States Army. I can show. Shut up. The rookie interrupted, loud enough that passing cars slowed as they went by, drivers craning their necks to stare. I don't care what you are. Those words landed in Reed's chest like a weight. I don't care what you are. It wasn't just disrespect, it was erasure. The sirens grew louder now, swelling behind them. Red and blue flashes began reflecting off nearby storefront windows, making the world look like a crime scene. In the distance, 2 patrol cars turned onto the corridor and sped toward them, engine growls pushing against the quiet. Reed looked down briefly and saw something he hadn't noticed before. The rookie officer's bodycam light, blinking a tiny red eye, silent but alive. Good, Reed thought bitterly. Let it see. But he also knew what cameras did. A camera didn't always capture truth. It captured angles. It captured narration. And in police work, the first narration becomes the official story. The rookie pressed his shoulder mic again. Subject is non-compliant, he said to dispatch, voice suddenly polished again. Refusing to follow commands. Reed's head snapped slightly. That's not true. The rookie turned his face toward him, smile tight and cold. You talking again? Reed swallowed the anger before it rose. He could feel it in his throat, the heat of it. He forced his voice down. I'm informing you for the record that I'm complying, Reed said. I'm not resisting. The rookie didn't respond. He just tightened his grip on the cuffs and yanked Reed's arms slightly upward, forcing Reed's shoulders into an unnatural angle. Pain ran sharp up Reed's forearms. Ah, Reed let out a short sound before he could stop it. The rookie smirked like he'd earned something. Then the backup arrived. The first patrol car parked slightly to the side, creating a triangle of control around Reed's vehicle. The second parked behind it. Doors opened. Boots hit pavement. Radios crackled. A floodlight switched on, washing Reed in bright white like he was on stage. The new officers approached with that coordinated stance they're trained to maintain, hands near belts, eyes scanning, posture stiff. Not one of them asked Reed what happened first. They didn't start with curiosity. They started with alliance. What we got? One officer asked, older, stockier, voice like gravel. The rookie spoke fast, as if he'd rehearsed his story the moment he pressed the radio. Driver was acting suspicious, refused to answer questions. I smelled alcohol, he said, lying without blinking. Then he got hostile. Reed's eyes widened slightly. Smelled alcohol, Reed said. That's false. The older officer looked at Reed like he was already convicted. "Sir, stop talking," he ordered. Reed took a breath. He felt the humiliation creeping in now deep and slow. It wasn't loud like anger. It was quiet like shame. He wasn't ashamed of himself. He was ashamed that this circus was happening at all. The older officer leaned closer. His flashlight beam hit Reed's face. He looked Reed up and down, like he was searching for permission to treat him badly. "What's your name?" the officer asked. "Captain Marcus Reed," Reed answered. "United States Army. I can provide my military ID. It's in my right pocket." That should have shifted the tone. It didn't. The rookie officer's eyes darted toward the pocket like it contained a weapon. "Don't move," the rookie shouted suddenly, voice exploding out of nowhere. "Don't reach." Reed froze instantly. "I'm not reaching," he said, palms still pinned behind him. But the panic had already entered the scene like gasoline on fire. The older officer raised his hand. "All right," he said to Reed, voice slow but firm. "Do exactly what we say." "Understand?" Reed nodded. "Yes, sir." The rookie officer stepped forward again, too aggressive, too eager. "He's resisting," he insisted, like he needed that sentence to be true. Reed stared ahead, breathing controlled, trying to keep his dignity from cracking. Then, without warning, the rookie officer grabbed Reed's shoulder and shoved him toward the patrol car. Reed stumbled not because he fought back, but because the shove was sudden. His boot scraped the gravel. His balance shifted. That was enough. The rookie officer shouted like he'd been attacked. "Stop resisting." The other officers reacted instantly, training overriding judgment. Hands reached for Reed. They pushed him forward. He felt his chest hit the trunk of the patrol car. Cold metal. His cheek scraped slightly against the surface. The smell of the vehicle gasoline, rubber, stale coffee filled his nose. "Get on the ground." The rookie yelled. Reed's mind screamed, "This is wrong. This is unnecessary. This is humiliation." But his mouth stayed careful. "I'm not resisting," Reed said again, voice strained. "I'm not resisting." His words didn't matter. They never had. One officer pulled his legs out from under him, forcing him down to the pavement. His knees hit hard. Pain shot up his thighs. Gravel bit through fabric into skin. Reed's face turned slightly to the side, and he saw a car slow down nearby. A family sedan. The driver staring. A passenger holding up a phone. A public audience. In that moment, Reed felt something deeper than fear. He felt dishonor forced upon him. Not because he'd done something wrong, but because he was being displayed like a criminal, like a threat, like a lesson. The older officer hovered near Reed's head, trying to sound controlled, but his posture showed tension. "You're making this worse," the older officer said. Reed wanted to laugh. He wanted to scream. Instead, he whispered through clenched teeth, "I haven't done anything." The rookie officer crouched down, voice low now, close to Reed's ear, almost intimate in cruelty. "You should have just kept your mouth shut," he said. Reed's eyes flicked toward the Bodycam on the rookie's chest. The red light blinked. Good, Reed thought again, but it felt less certain now. Because the rookie wasn't scared of the camera. He was confident in it, confident that he could narrate violence into law. Reed tried to shift slightly for breath, his chest compressed against the pavement. The rookie officer reacted like Reed had attacked him. He's moving, and that's when everything happened at once. Weapons were drawn. Not fired, but drawn guns out, pointed down, safety protocols ignored in the heat of adrenaline. Reed heard the click of a taser being armed. Heard another officer shouting, "Hands, hands." His hands were cuffed, pinned behind him. There was nowhere for them to go. The scene became pure panic disguised as procedure, commands overlapping, voices rising, multiple bodies moving in different directions. A choreography of confusion where the one person fully restrained was treated like the greatest threat. Reed's breathing shortened. He felt weight on his back, one knee, then two. He felt his shoulder pulled in a direction it wasn't meant to go. A sharp pain bloomed. "Stop. Stop," Reed said, voice cracking for the first time. "You're hurting me." The older officer's voice cut through the noise. "Relax, relax." But Reed wasn't tense from resistance. He was tense from pain. A phone camera from the sedan caught the scene, silent witness to public humiliation. And the sirens kept flashing. Red, blue, red, blue. Like the system itself was blinking between right and wrong and refusing to choose. The rookie officer tightened his grip again, and Reed felt something in the tension of his arm, something fragile, something close to breaking. Not yet, but close. The night was holding its breath, And so was Reed. The pavement was colder than Reed expected. It wasn't just uncomfortable, it was humiliating, intimate in the worst way. Asphalt pressed against his cheek and the side of his jaw. Gravel dug into his skin like tiny teeth. Somewhere above him, tires hissed along the highway ramp, indifferent to the fact that a man who had worn his country's flag in combat zones was now being pinned like a threat in the back corner of a suburban road. His arms were cuffed behind him. The steel bit into his wrists. Every breath felt smaller than it should have been because the pressure on his back didn't come from one officer. It came from a choice. A knee settled into Reed's shoulder blade area hard enough to turn his chest into a shallow cage. Then another hand grabbed his forearm and pulled it higher than his body naturally allowed. Reed's training screamed at him to stay still, to stay compliant, to survive by minimizing movement. But the pain forced the body to react, even when the mind refused to panic. He made a small adjustment, barely a shift of his shoulder, barely a twist of his neck to breathe. That was all it took. Stop resisting. The rookie officer shouted loud and theatrical, like he wasn't speaking to Reed at all. He was speaking to the record. His voice carried across the shoulder lane, bouncing off the patrol cars, turning into something public, something official. Reed's lips parted. His voice came out strained. "I'm not resisting. I can't move my hands." The words didn't change the weight on his back. They didn't change the grip on his arm. The rookie officer wasn't hearing him, he was using him. In the blink of a streetlight, the rookie adjusted his stance and reached for Reed's right arm. He twisted it outward, lifting it higher, forcing the wrist into a sharp, unnatural angle. Reed felt the tightness spread up his forearm, like a rope being pulled through muscle. "Officer," Reed said, voice cracking at the edges now, "please, you're hurting me." That sentence wasn't a plea for mercy. It was a procedural statement. A man marking pain for the camera, for the timeline, for the truth he already sensed would have to fight later. The rookie officer leaned down so his face was closer to Reed's ear. His breath carried the faint smell of caffeine and something bitter like nicotine gum or stress. "You should have kept your mouth shut," the rookie muttered. Then he spoke louder again, switching back into performance mode. "You're resisting. Stop fighting." Reed's eyes fluttered closed for half a second, not because he was giving up, but because he was trying to stay inside himself, trying to stay human under the weight of other people's power. Behind them, one of the backup officers, Officer Delgado, a mid-career patrolman with tired eyes, stood near Reed's feet. He wasn't touching Reed. His hands hovered near his belt, unsure. His face showed something complicated. Not sympathy, not courage, just hesitation. He watched the rookie's grip tighten. He watched the angle of Reed's arm. He watched the way Reed's body reacted, not as an attacker, but as a man being pushed beyond his limits. Delgado shifted his weight like he wanted to speak, like he wanted to say, "That's enough." But the words stayed trapped in his throat, caught behind the oldest rule in the room. "Don't embarrass your partner." The older officer, the one who arrived first, hovered closer, voice stern but not aggressive. All right, let's get him seated. We got control." But the rookie didn't want control. He wanted dominance. He wanted Reed to break not physically, but spiritually. The rookie officer repositioned and planted his knee, with more force, into Reed's upper back, pressing him down. Reed's breath left his lungs in a short grunt. "Ah." The rookie reacted like Reed had threatened him. "See? He's fighting. He's fighting." Reed's jaw clenched so hard his molars ached. "I'm not," he began. But he couldn't finish, because the rookie officer twisted again harder. Reed felt it first as a stretch that didn't belong. A sharp, wrong tension, like the body was being forced into a shape it had never agreed to. His wrist was locked in cuffs, his forearm was being lifted. The angle was impossible. Time slowed, not dramatically, not poetically, procedurally, like an evidence video you'd later watch frame by frame with a lawyer, pausing at the worst moment, hearing the same sound again and again. Reed's face pressed into asphalt, his eyes widened. "Stop, stop, stop." He shouted now, the first time his voice lost its calm. The rookie officer's response was immediate and cruelly automatic. "Stop resisting." And then, the crack. It was not loud like a gunshot. It was worse. It was intimate, a dry, sharp snap that sounded like a thick branch breaking under a boot. It echoed inside Reed's arm. It echoed inside the pavement. It echoed inside the Bodycam microphone like the universe had cleared its throat. Reed screamed, not a dramatic scream. A raw one. the sound of a man whose strength had finally been pushed past the edge. His entire body convulsed not as resistance, but as instinct. Pain surged up his arm like electricity. Tears formed instantly, not from emotion but from the body's emergency response. "Oh my God, my wrist," Reed gasped. The rookie officer didn't release him. He held Reed in that position for another second, maybe two, like he didn't fully understand what he'd done, or like he did understand and didn't want to admit it. Delgado took a step forward. "Hey," he said finally. "Hey, I think," the rookie barked at him without looking. "He's fine." But Reed wasn't fine. His wrist was no longer a wrist. It was a broken hinge, something wrong and loose inside his skin. Reed's breathing turned ragged. He felt nausea crawl up his throat. The older officer leaned down and saw Reed's face, sweat shining, jaw trembling, eyes glassy. "What happened?" The older officer asked sharply, not to Reed, to the rookie. The rookie swallowed once. The confidence flickered for the first time. He was resisting, the rookie said, but his voice didn't hit the same. It didn't carry authority anymore. It carried panic. Delgado crouched down near Reed's arm, eyes locked on the angle of the wrist. "Sir," Delgado said to Reed, softer now, "can you move your fingers?" Reed tried. His fingers trembled. He could feel the pain in waves, hot, nauseating, pulsing. His vision blurred. Not because he was weak, because the body was overloaded. Delgado looked up at the older officer. His face said what his mouth was scared to say. "This is bad. This is felony bad." A passing car slowed again. A phone's flashlight turned on through a window. The public was still watching, recording, absorbing. The rookie officer stood up fast, like movement could erase consequence. His hands fluttered near his belt, unsure what to do next, unsure how to appear in control again. The older officer's voice turned colder. "EMS. He snapped into the radio. Need medical. Possible broken wrist." A pause. Then dispatch responded. The camera kept blinking. Reed lay there, cheek against asphalt, breathing through agony, hearing the police radio chatter like it was happening to someone else. He stared at the streetlight above him, flickering again, and felt something inside him shift. Not hope, not anger, a kind of quiet understanding that this wasn't just pain. This was evidence, because the sound was on camera. The crack, the scream, the lie that followed immediately after. "Stop resisting," the rookie had yelled while Reed was pinned, cuffed, helpless. And now the night had recorded the truth in a language no department could rewrite. Bone, pavement, and a sound that would follow everyone involved for the rest of their lives. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and exhaustion. The fluorescent lights were too bright, too clean, making everything feel unreal, like pain didn't belong in a place that looked so controlled. Captain Marcus Reed sat on a narrow emergency room bed with his arm propped on a pillow, wrist swelling under gauze. Every heartbeat sent a pulse of pain through the broken joint, like his body was trying to remind him what the world had done. A nurse adjusted the sling gently. Her eyes flicked the bruises on his forearm, the scrape marks on his cheek. "You want me to call someone?" she asked softly. Reed didn't answer right away. He stared at his own fingers. He could still move them barely, but the hand didn't feel like his anymore. It felt borrowed. Damaged property returned to him with a receipt. After a long breath, he said yes, and then he gave her the number of his unit's duty officer. Because this wasn't just a broken wrist, this was an incident. And in the military, incidents have a gravity the civilian world rarely understands. They trigger calls, reports, accountability chains. A ripple effect that climbs until it hits someone with stars on their chest. The attending physician came in with a calm face and tired eyes. "Captain Reed," he said, reading off the chart. "You have a fracture in the distal radius and ulnar styloid. It's consistent with a high-force twist injury." Reed looked up. That last line mattered. Consistent with high force. A medical anchor. A professional confirmation of violence. "How long?" Reed asked quietly. The doctor hesitated. "Healing, 6 to 8 weeks, maybe more. Function and range of motion depends on physical therapy." Reed's jaw tightened. Range of motion. He'd spent his career teaching people how to move with purpose under stress. Now a cop's decision had turned his hand into a question mark. And while Reed sat there under hospital light, someone else was already building the story that would be told about him. At the local police station, the rookie officer's supervisor sat behind a desk with the kind of face that had learned how to sound reasonable during scandals. His job wasn't truth. His job was containment. In the internal report draft, the language came out clean and sterile. Subject was uncooperative. Subject resisted arrest. Officer used approved control techniques. Injury occurred during active resistance. Every sentence was a shield. Every word was a quiet lie meant to survive review boards. But the problem wasn't the report. The problem was the footage. By the time Reed's commanding officer saw the clip, it was already too late for the department to control it. Someone had leaked a short segment to a private text thread, and from there it moved like fire through dry grass. A soldier in Reed's unit watched it in stunned silence, then sent it up the chain with a single sentence, "Sir, you need to see this." And when Colonel Diane Kessler, Reed's commanding officer, watched the Bodycam video in her office, she didn't speak at first. She just stared at the screen, hands folded, eyes cold. The crack played. Reed's scream followed. The rookie officers stopped resisting, came after like a punchline from a broken moral universe. Kessler rewound it, played it again. Then she leaned back slowly and said, almost to herself, "This is going to get ugly," because she knew what the local police department didn't fully understand yet. The military does not forget its own. Not when one of their officers is harmed in a way that looks like misconduct, bias, and excessive force. Not when it's recorded. Not when the whole country is already sensitive to the image of a black man pinned to the ground under flashing lights. Kessler picked up her phone and made the kind of call that doesn't ask, it informs. "This is Colonel Kessler, United States Army," she said to the police chief's office. "I need your chief on the line." There was hesitation, a shuffle. Then a different voice came on, older, careful. "Colonel," the chief said. Kessler's voice stayed calm, but it had weight. "You have one of my officers in an emergency room with a broken wrist," she said. "I've reviewed video. I'm requesting immediate preservation of all body cam footage, dash cam footage, dispatch audio, and incident reports. This will not be handled casually." The chief tried to speak like a politician. "We take the matter seriously," he began. Kessler cut through him with military precision. "You will, or you will explain why you didn't to federal investigators." Silence on the line. The word federal changes people. It changes posture. It changes priorities. Because local departments can manage a complaint. They can manage a lawsuit. They can manage social media outrage if they move fast enough. But federal oversight? That's a different animal. Within 24 hours, the department's tone shifted publicly. A short statement appeared on their social media page. "The department is aware of an incident involving use of force. The matter is under internal review." The language was carefully designed to say nothing, but behind closed doors, damage control became urgent choreography. The rookie officer was told to turn in his gear. He wasn't fired, not yet. He was reassigned. A desk job. Administrative tasks. No patrol, not a punishment. A pause, because departments love pauses. A pause gives them time to build a narrative. But Reed didn't pause. He returned home wearing a cast like a badge of trauma. His arm in a sling, his face bruised, his shoulder sore. He sat at his kitchen table under warm light that tried to make him feel safe again, but safety felt different now. It felt fragile, like glass. His uniform hung on a chair stained with asphalt. Dust still embedded into the fabric. Reed didn't clean it. Not yet. It mattered to him that it looked the way it looked. Evidence. Not for court. For his own dignity. His phone buzzed constantly, messages from fellow soldiers. Calls from friends, a voicemail from someone in the department's professional standards unit wanting to hear his side. He didn't call back. He didn't want to be heard. He wanted to be respected. And respect in this situation required pressure. 2 days later, Reed sat in a law office with dark wood walls and a soft hum of air conditioning. Across from him was a civil rights attorney named Angela Whitaker. Calm, sharp-eyed, mid-40s. The kind of lawyer whose voice didn't rise because she didn't need it to. She slid a legal pad across the table. "Captain Reed," she said, "I'm going to ask questions like I'm preparing for trial. Not because we want a circus. Because we want truth that survives a courtroom." Reed nodded. Whitaker leaned forward slightly. "Did you ever raise your voice first?" she asked. "No." "Did you make any sudden movements?" "No." "Did you ever attempt to flee?" Reed's eyes narrowed. "No, I literally told him every move I made." Whitaker wrote slowly. "Good," she said, "because your calm is your evidence." Then she turned the pad and showed him the bullet points she'd already prepared. Bodycam preservation request, dashcam footage, CAD logs, dispatch timestamps, radio traffic audio, use of force policy manual, training records, complaints history, supervisor review. Reed stared at the page. "You can get all that." he asked. Whitaker's mouth tightened into something close to a smile but not warm. "Oh, we're going to request it," she said. "And if they delay, we'll file motions. And if they hide anything, we'll subpoena it." She paused, letting the air settle. "This isn't just about your wrist," she added. "This is about an officer who believes force is a language he's allowed to speak without consequence." That sentence set inside Reed like truth he didn't want, but needed. Over the next week, the case began to grow teeth. Whitaker filed the first records request official, formal, careful. The department responded late, slow walking it. They provided partial footage, missing minutes, technical malfunction, they claimed. Whitaker didn't argue emotionally. She argued procedurally. Chain of custody, she demanded. Metadata. Upload timestamp. Docking station logs. That's where police departments panic, because metadata doesn't lie the way people do. Reed watched the legal process unfold like a second war, slow, strategic, relentless. The department's attorney called Whitaker to discuss settlement quietly. Whitaker refused. "Not before we see the whole picture," she said. Then the most dangerous piece of truth surfaced. The rookie officer Evan Mercer had a history, not a violent criminal history. A departmental history. 2 prior complaints about aggressive demeanor during traffic stops. 1 internal note from a field training officer. Mercer escalates unnecessarily. Needs coaching on tone and de-escalation. The note wasn't public, but it existed, and it meant something terrifying. They knew. Someone in that department had known this rookie officer was high risk, and they still put him on the street. Reed sat in Whitaker's office again when she told him. "They had warning signs," she said quietly. This wasn't random. Reed's cast rested on the table like a reminder of consequence. He swallowed. "So they let it happen." Whitaker didn't answer immediately. She didn't need to. Her silence said it for her. Outside the office building, news vans began to gather. Local reporters sniffing scandal. A leaked still image from the Bodycam floated online. Reed's face pressed to asphalt, his eyes open, his cheeks scraped. It spread fast, not because people love justice, because people recognize fear. And in that image, Reed didn't look dangerous, he looked human. The police chief held a press conference under bright cameras and stiff smiles. "We are committed to transparency," he said. But Reed watched the clip later and noticed what the chief didn't say. He didn't say sorry. He didn't admit wrongdoing. He didn't name the officer. Departments avoid naming because names create responsibility. But Reed was done with avoidance. He sat upright at home, cast heavy, mind heavier, and said to Whitaker on the phone, "I don't want them to bury this." Whitaker's voice was calm as steel. "They won't," she said. "Not if we keep pressure." In that moment, Reed realized the truth of this fight. This wasn't Reed versus the rookie officer anymore. This was Reed versus a machine, and now, the machine knew his name, but Reed also knew something else now. Machines don't feel guilt. They only respond to consequences. And consequences were finally approaching. The courthouse air felt dry, like it had been recycled through decades of other people's pain. No music, no drama, just quiet footsteps on polished floors, and the soft clack of suit shoes that sounded. Too confident for a room where truth was about to be forced into the open. "Captain Marcus," Reed sat upright, wrist braced beneath his sleeve, fingers still stiff when he moved them. He didn't wear his uniform. He didn't want symbols today. He wanted facts. Across the room, Officer Evan Mercer looked smaller than he had on the roadside. In the street he had been loud, fast, certain. Here, under courtroom lights, certainty didn't matter. Evidence did. When the body cam played, the room changed. Flashing lights filled the screen. Commands landed like punches. Reed's voice came through tight and controlled, calm, respectful, still trying to keep the situation human. Then the angle shifted to the ground, knee on back, arm pulled high. The audio caught Reed's warning, "You're hurting me." A beat later, the crack snapped through the speakers, dry, sharp, unmistakable. Reed didn't move in his seat, but his jaw tightened like the sound had reached inside him. The defense tried the usual shelter, fear, threat perception, split-second decisions. But the doctor's testimony didn't bend. The fracture pattern was consistent with high-force twisting unlikely to occur from a compliant, restrained subject. Then a backup officer admitted what everyone could see, but rarely says aloud. Reed was pinned, cuffed, and not a threat. He hesitated on scene because in policing, silence is often the price of belonging. Whitaker's cross-examination didn't shout. It didn't need to. She walked Mercer into the corner of his own story. If his hands were cuffed and you controlled the arm, how did he break his own wrist? Mercer's mouth opened. Nothing came out. The courtroom wasn't angry. It was disappointed, like the truth had exhausted it. The verdict arrived without celebration. Guilty. Mercer's shoulders sank, as if the word carried weight he'd never felt in uniform. At sentencing, the judge spoke slowly. Policing was trust, not domination. Reed's compliance had been met with punishment, and punishment, she said, was not law. Then she sentenced Mercer to prison time outside. Reporters chased sound bites. Reed offered none. His wrist still ached. His sleep still broke under imagined sirens. Justice didn't feel like victory. It felt like a door closing, finally, on the lie that his pain didn't count. Weeks later, reforms followed: stricter bodycam compliance, mandatory de-escalation, and disciplinary rules for officers who failed to intervene. Reed drove past the same highway shoulder one day and didn't slow down. The road looked ordinary now, but he knew what it could become. Justice didn't give him back what was taken. It only proved it mattered.